And Katie Phillips was 2 months old at the time, and she was admitted to the ward as a precaution following the death of her sister. Now, she had to also be resuscitated twice, which was later found out to be caused by insulin and potassium overdoses.
Yeah, I remember this.
Following the second time that she stopped breathing, she was transferred to another hospital. But by this time, she had incurred permanent brain damage.
I remember this. Go on, I'll let you carry on before I chirp in. Yeah.
Partial paralysis and partial blindness due to oxygen deprivation. Now, her parents had been so grateful for Allitt's care of Becky, the other sister that passed away, that they had asked her to be Katie's godmother. So they asked the woman that murdered her child, that they didn't know.
Yeah, they had no
know.
idea. The parents had no clue. That's extremely important to stress here. They thought, and this Beverly was so good at acting, that she was doing a perfect job. Yeah. They had no reason to doubt her whatsoever.
They had no reason to doubt.
Now, the thing is here, if you've not seen, well, even if you've not seen, you can imagine how bad these things are. But when you have seen some of these things, we're not talking, oh, she had brain damage, so she became dyslexic, or, oh, she had brain damage, so she couldn't spell things properly, or whatever. We're talking serious issues. Paralysis, partial paralysis. I don't know to what extent, but I've been around people who are paraplegic. I've been around people who are quadriplegic. And these things are absolutely enormous. They change your life on every single level. From where you go to where you can work, to how you sleep, to how you bathe. And on top of this, partial blindness. And 20 other things to a child.
Even just one of those affects your life, your family's life, completely.
Literally, before we started this tonight, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was going to say, just to have to deal with that on top of losing the twin of that child.
Yeah.
I don't know, would you be thankful that they had brain damage and partial blindness and be alive rather than passed?
Oh, that's really hard. That is really hard, because
I wonder how they feel about it now, knowing that the godmother that they put in place for their child was the murderer, an attempted murderer.
I see what you've done there, but they are not responsible in any way, shape, or form for how this woman is acted.
Not.
Any more than I am responsible for what my father's done.
I wonder from sort of like a mother to mother sort of opinion, in that sense of how you'd feel knowing that you've welcomed that woman into your life and thanked her, and you've welcomed her into your life.
I can answer at least in part that you'd never trust again. In the same way, you talk about Oedipus and Oedipus complex, where you have these issues of trust on a large scale, or trust of having to outdo somebody. Can you imagine next time she has to go to the hospital?
I think I'd feel guilty.
She's got to have what? Think about the mom. She's got to have what? A gyno exam every, 6 months, 3 years or something? You know? She's got to go down there and trust somebody to perform a minor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think.
Don't think so.
I'd feel.
She's never going to trust again.
Yeah, unnecessary guilt. You know, there is no guilt. There is no blame. Those parents are not to obviously know and have any blame or any guilt. And I hope that that child has gone on, Katie Phillips, to have some sort of better quality of life without her in it, and knowing that she's in prison now.
Literally before. And I've said 100 times on Tracy's story through the podcast, Serene, and I can't pronounce her surname, bless her, Zangalahar or something. I cannot pronounce it. Serene Music on Instagram. Serene.music on Instagram. She's absolutely epic, and I still want her to do Eternal Flame by the Bangles because it was my mum's favourite song. But she's blind. She's completely blind. She was on Britain's Got Talent. And we were just watching a clip before we got onto this about her saying how she spoke to people and given the same advice that her dad gave her into how to deal with the troubles that she was going through.
Mm-hmm.
And she's become a huge inspiration for me especially, but for thousands of other people the world over. And she's absolutely incredible. But you can't say that blindness hasn't impacted her life and her dad's and everybody's around her, because I think she'll be the first to say that it has.
Yeah, of course.
That wasn't caused by anybody, from what I understand. That was a medical thing, and I don't think
I believe it was
anybody
just a medical
is
condition that's
responsible in the
gradually
slightest.
degenerated.
Yeah. And yet this person is quite happily going around blinding children. It beggars belief.
Yes.
What's more is there is a little bit of light. It might not be much, but it is a little bit of light. Do you want to carry on with the rest of that?
Yeah. So in 1999, Katie was awarded 2.1 million, which is equivalent to 4 million in 2021, by Lincolnshire Health Authority to pay for treatment and equipment for the rest of her life. So she needs treatment and equipment for the rest of her life. Now, Lincolnshire Health Authority did not accept liability, but did acknowledge that Katie was entitled to compensation. So they're given her compensation for something that they're not accepting liability for.
So that was very cleverly worded there, but the good thing about having your own podcast in the end is that you can actually say what you feel. They copped a plea bargain by the sound of it, and they've turned around and go, I'll tell you what, out of court settlement, because if we go to court, you might win. You might not. And if you don't, we're going to give you zero money. But there's a good chance you're going to win, and I don't want to pay out the nose. I also don't want to be to blame and associated with this terrible murderer who's an absolutely disgusting human being. I don't want my name attached to that. So I'm going to out of court settlement you, and I'm going to say I think that her condition is worth this amount, and they've put a number on it, and they've given her that number.
And also on the other side of it, though, as a parent, if I was Katie's parent or Becky's parent, to go through losing one child and having another child that needs treatment and equipment for the rest of their life, rather than have that worry of struggle of knowing where you're going to get that money from to care and support your child, I'd agree to take anything I could if I knew it was going to help the child that I've got that has survived.
100%. You're a parent. That's what you do. You look after your kids. There's no ifs and buts. You do whatever you need to do to look after your kids.
There is no price that they can put on losing their child and having another child.
And the kicker here is, I can recite this story, you can recite this story, Cola City Crime, Evil Pudding, 200 million newspaper articles. It doesn't matter who recites this story. That woman, Beverly Allitt, does not feel any responsibility, any guilt, any blame, any remorse whatsoever. She's a cold-hearted, manipulative bitch, and it is absolutely disgusting, and she deserves every bit of pain. That was a child, is presumably now an adult, has all of these conditions because of this person and has to go through with them, and no amount of money will rectify that. No amount of money will bring that other child back. Nothing will change this.
No, absolutely nothing.
And that's disgusting. The fact that it had to be done out of court, in my mind, is how that words. I could be misinterpreting it, but in my mind, that's how that's worded. It was an out-of-court settlement.
Yeah, basically.
In my mind, it's worse. You're not accepting responsibility for the person that you hired, the person you didn't do the CRB checks on, the person who had barely passed, and you didn't find the pattern. No.
If I wasn't liable for something, why would I pay out money? Or if I didn't think there was an inkling there, then why would I pay out money?
Yeah, it's got guilty written all over
it. Definitely.
So, Allitt had attacked 13 children, 4 fatally over a 59-day period before she was brought up on charges for her crimes. It was only following the death of Becky Phillips that medical staff became suspicious of the number of cardiac arrests on the children's ward, and the police were called in. It was found that Allitt was the only nurse on duty for all the attacks on the children. She also had access to the drugs. 4 of Allitt's victims had died. She was charged with 4 counts of murder, 11 counts of attempted murder, and 11 counts of causing grievous bodily harm. Allitt entered pleas of not guilty to all charges. On 28th of May 1993, she was found guilty on each charge and sentenced to 13 concurrent terms of life imprisonment, which she is serving at Rampton Secure Hospital in Nottinghamshire. In the 2018 documentary Trevor McDonald and the Killer Nurse, Allitt reportedly told close friends before her trial that she would never go to prison. After 1 week in prison, she refused to eat or drink and was moved to Rampton Secure Hospital. 2 leading experts, forensic psychologist Jeremy Coyd and criminologist Elizabeth Yardley, examined Allitt's mental state when she was arrested and concluded she was not mentally ill and should be in prison, not hospital. Allitt reportedly admitted to all 13 of her crimes in a failed application to remain at Rampton Secure Hospital and permanently avoid prison. None of the families of Alan's victims had been told of her full confession in the failed application. On 6th of December 2007, Mr Justice Stanley Burnton, sitting in the High Court of Justice London, confirmed that Alice must serve the original minimum sentence of 30 years. It was reported that some families of Allitt's victims had previously mistakenly believed that her minimum tariff had been set at 40. Her minimum tariff expired in November 2021, and she is thus now eligible for release on parole. Her motives have never been fully explained. According to one theory, she showed symptoms of a factitious disorder, specifically the disorder imposed upon another, also known as Munchausen syndrome by proxy. This disorder is described as involving a pattern of abuse in which a perpetrator ascribes symptoms to or physically falsifies illnesses in someone under their care in order to attract attention to themselves. And this is complete from Wikipedia. Personally, I don't buy that. And I don't buy that because she could have said, it would be like me saying, hey, look, our 4-year-old, she's got a cough. Hey, look, our 4-year-old, she's got a temperature. She didn't do that. It would be like me saying, oh, look, she's got tonsillitis. I'm looking after her. She's doing really, really well. She's getting better. She didn't do that. She wasn't looking for attention. She killed these kids. She hurt these kids with intent to kill them.
Yes.
So
it was definitely with intent because she knew exactly what she was doing. I mean, although I think she scraped by on her nursing qualification, she knew what insulin was. She knew how it affects the body. She knew exactly what she was doing.
And one of them, which got me because I'd read about this somewhere before, and scares the life out of me if I'm honest, they put an air bubble into
Yes.
one of the
cannulas.
I couldn't think of the right word, and apparently that can stop your heart. That gives you a heart attack. Apparently it goes round and into your system.
Yeah.
I don't know the medical terminology behind it. I'm not trained in the slightest in that regard, but it can kill you. And I'm very much like, so one little dot of air in the wrong place is game over. Yeah, that's a bit creepy. That's a little bit concerning. I don't like that. But she knew this and she used it to the best of her ability. Guess if you wanted to be, I guess if you wanted to be really crude about it, you could say that she was the SAS of child killers. She was very much the best of the best in terms of what she did, but I don't think that anybody in their right mind wants to see that's a good thing. Right?
So Beverly Allitt has done her minimum of 30 years. So her minimum tariff expired in November 2021, and she is now eligible for release on parole.
And where's she at?
She's serving at Rampton Secure Hospital in Nottinghamshire.
Okay. You see, I'd like to hear that she's not coming out for the next 50 years. Or actually, you know what? I'll be honest.
Ever.
I'd like to hear that she got stabbed to death by an inmate, or like
I'd like to
a
hear that
screw
she's been
took her.
injected with insulin.
Yeah, a screw took a
gone.
severe disliking to her, and she was found hanging from a cell or something. But the point being that